we are having diplomatic meetings. This is because of Israel, and we need not our region to be a place for conflict. We need not our region to be a place that disturbs the global security and peace. Whatsoever are the claims, the attacks of Iran against the region's countries are against the stability of the region and against the peace of the region, and we cannot accept that. These attacks are completely wrong, and the attacks against Iran were wrong by Israel and by America. The attacks were also wrong, and these attacks here or there were against the peace and stability, and will open the way for rifts that will never be sorted out or settled. And we confirm once again that we need to avoid anything that will prevent the safety of navals and the shipments here and there. We are against anything that hits our neighbors. Our situation is not to allow Israel to do more. Israel is feeding itself by these crimes, and we need not to accept that. Media people, we are supporting the state of Qatar. We urge everyone to come and depend on dialogue. We must bring peace and stability to the region, and the war must stop, and the war must not let the world forget the crisis and the disaster in Palestine, in Gaza. Israel is feeding itself by creating such a crisis, and the situation is not good. We have lost a lot of martyrs in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, in Al-Aqsa Mosque, the sanctuaries over there. They prevent people from going there. And Israel is trying to corrupt the whole situation. And Israel's policy, the occupation policy of Israel, is against the stability in the region, and Israel is doing bad in Lebanon. The international community must not accept the Israeli behavior. The international community must stop Israel from imposing realities on the ground. This is clear. The key for peace is to achieve a real peace, lasting peace in our region. The problem in the region and the crisis in the region must be dealt with properly. Turkey and Qatar are continuing their efforts through President Erdogan and His Highness the Emir of Qatar, and it's most important to continue our solidarity and to have the clear, same will. Until now, we have faced so many circumstances. We have helped each other. Our relations are good in the defensive side, and we will continue our cooperation. I'd like to thank my brother very much, and I wish you all the best here and in the whole region. A question from Al Jazeera. Hassan Masoud from Al Jazeera. Your Excellency, is there any space for diplomacy to put an end to what's going on? And who is getting the fruits and the benefits of the escalation of Iran against the region's country? A question to the Turkish minister: what is the role that Turkey can play in order to stop these attacks and not to see these attacks again against Qatar and the neighboring countries through the dialogue or contacts with Iran? What is the joint effort between Turkey and Qatar in this regard? You are doing mediation. What can you do in this connection? Regarding the space for diplomatic efforts, we always have a space, and as a state of Qatar, we believe that the most solution must be through diplomacy, and we need to work with some countries in the region, including Turkey, in order to stop the war and prevent the wars. And we have done that before the war in order to stop the war from the very beginning against Iran. But our efforts have been met by attacks from Iran. And as I said before, for us, the volume of the shock was massive because we were attacked as countries in the region since the start of the war. And this imposes a lot of questions for us as neighboring countries. A country that has good relations based on good neighborhood and based on good relations with our neighbors and to work together to support peace and stability in the region.
Emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:45 and 38 seconds. Jerusalem, Kafrakab, Givat Ze'ev, Gibbon HaHadasha, Jerusalem. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
Urge Iran to stop the aggressions and the attacks, but diplomacy is always there, dialogue is always there.
Emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:46 and 29 seconds. Jerusalem, Kafrakab, Jerusalem, Adarot Industrial Zone Yarkon. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
Now, due to these Iranian attacks, we know at the end of the day that we are
emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:45 and 47 seconds. Jerusalem, Kafrakab, Givat Ze'ev, Gibbon HaHadasha, Jerusalem. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
And we need to avoid all the
emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:45 and 26 seconds. Jerusalem, Kafrakab, Givat Ze'ev, Gibbon HaHadasha, Jerusalem. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
Are known to everyone. First of all,
emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:45 and 23 seconds. Shvalat Yehuda, Nataf, Ma'eli HaHamisha, Terem, Abu Ghosh, Harel, Naham, Shor. Blast Radius Network Command Center. Emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:45 and 14 seconds. Shvalat Yehuda, Nataf, Ma'eli HaHamisha, Terem, Abu Ghosh, Harel, Naham, Shor. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
From bad to worse, and we have done a lot.
Emergency alert message detected.
Of the war.
Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:45 and 44 seconds. Jerusalem, Kafrakab, Givat Ze'ev, Gibbon HaHadasha, Jerusalem. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
The war from a bad moment into a worse moment. We need to know where is everyone standing at this particular moment in order not to spread the war. We are looking for a solution. We are continuing our efforts, and also we are supporting our brothers, particularly in Qatar, who are doing a lot of efforts and consultations to stop this bad scenario in the north, in the south, or anywhere. The entire world wants this war to stop. Particularly in this point, as the situation in Palestine is very important to us, there are also other matters that are very important, and we need to blend everything for the sake of the region and for the sake of the peoples in the region. We spoke up with Iran because we need not this war to be everywhere in our region. Iran is attacked, and also at the same time, the Iranian attacks against the regions, countries, cannot be justified at all. The Iranian attacks can increase the crisis, and Iran, being a responsible country in the region, we would like to advise them as friends. We would like to advise them as friends in Iran, and in an honest way. You know the situations are difficult, but we can let's find a solution within these difficult times. A question from the Turkish side to Sheikh Abdul Rahman. Yesterday, the energy facilities have been attacked yesterday. What is the volume of the damage, and what is Qatar going to do in the future? Have you had any contacts with Iran during the last 24 hours? Qatar has a special location, being a good mediator. Are you going to change your situation because of what's going on? What is your strategy? A question to the Turkish foreign minister. You participated in Riyadh meeting yesterday, and there were certain important points, including the Israel's policy of expanding. How can you see the situation? How can you see the war right now? How can you see the situation of the region's countries regarding what's going on? Yesterday also you have met Araghchi, the Iranian foreign minister. Riyadh also has been attacked. So what can you evaluate everything? Regarding the attack of yesterday on the gas complex, I'd like to say, thank God, we have intercepted a big part and portion of these attacks, but they managed to hit some areas. We are now seeing the damage, and we thank God we don't have any victims. This is great. Allah Almighty has helped us to take the precautionary steps before the attacks, since the first attack that happened on the second day of the war. And this indicates the pretext and the claims of Iran that are not true. They are attacking the infrastructure since the second day of the war. We had made a good procedures, and thank God we have no victims. There are no victims. We are now evaluating the damage, and it's important that we don't have victims. The damage can be fixed, but these locations must not be attacked. And as I said, these locations are providing livelihood to the state of Qatar and to the people here in Qatar, and also it helps Qatar to help other peoples around the world who are in need, particularly those who suffer a lot in the world and in our region. I hope that the Islamic Republic of Iran can understand that the Iranian attacks has deprived the most needy from our help. Regarding the state of Qatar and how can we deal with this situation, we have our rights, we reserve our rights to reply, and in all platforms and in all legal ways, everything will be highly expensive according to the international law. Dear friends, the meeting of Riyadh yesterday had an agenda according to the invitation of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have met whether we are involved or affected or interested in the situation in the region. We have met and we have condemned the Iranian attacks, and we discussed the procedures and the steps that must be taken in this regard. Those countries who have been attacked by Iran also have their own say. We have spoken openly and positively. Everyone stressed the need to stop this war. It's an urgent, and we were not attacked like other countries, but everyone said that the message is clear. We need to stop this war because hundreds or more than that of missiles are hitting here and there and everywhere, and countries must adopt certain steps and procedures. We have discussed all that, and the final communique was regarding that file or that topic before the start of the meeting yesterday, while I was having a meeting with my Pakistani counterpart. Arachi has called me, and I told Arachi that you are talking to us and your Iranian missiles are attacking us while we are meeting. From their point of view, their diplomatic situation is there. We have listened to them. We have explained to them the whole situation, and we told them your attacks against the region's countries are not right. One mistake must not lead us to more mistakes. We need to put this into consideration. Iran must not resort to the option of expanding the conflict in the region. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Eid Mubarak for every one of you. Thank you very much.
You've just been listening to a press conference there with Qatar's foreign minister and prime minister, and also Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, who is in Doha today. Joining us now is Ross Harrison, a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute in Washington, D.C., also author of Decoding Iran's Foreign Policy. Ross, you were listening to the whole event. What stands out to you?
What stands out to me, Cyril, is that there was a choreography of messaging taking place, it appears, between the Turkish foreign minister and the Qatari foreign minister, in the sense that initially the comments were really laying or invective against Iran, basically saying that Iran is an aggressor, we are not party to this war. So that is the line that we heard from the Qataris. And we just, last hour, we believe we had incoming missiles, right? Mm-hmm. So that's completely understandable. But from there, right at the end, as he was ready to transition to the Turkish foreign minister, he said something to the effect that we know we need to stop at the source of this conflict. And he left it at that. And then when the Turkish foreign minister came on, he basically talked about Israel and the fact that Israel was the aggressor. So I think what you're seeing, Cyril, is an attempt to think about the day after this conflict, that the fact that Qatar and even Turkey have to live in this neighborhood. I mean, there's a tyranny of geography here, right? So I think it's important that they're starting to talk about that. And I think it's also, there were earlier messages from Foreign Minister Akashi of Iran saying that they were withholding certain missiles or certain kinds of responses as long as the other side does.
Holding missiles against who?
I don't think he spoke. I think it was more general.
All right.
And I think what he was trying to signal was two things. One is that he's listening to what's happening in the Gulf here, and the second piece is that they're holding certain powder dry should things escalate further. So I think the messaging here is trying to give each of the parties, Qatar, Turkey, and Iran, a little bit of flexibility here, trying to send the message to Washington, if not Jerusalem, send the message to Washington that there are diplomatic off-ramps and that Washington should be thinking about the day after as well, not just the Gulf Arab allies that are being held within this context.
Well, what I get from one of the things I get from what you're saying is that you talked about geography. Everybody knows, well, the countries in this part of the world, whether it's Turkey, Iran, Qatar, they're all neighbors or not far from, no, they're actually all those countries are neighbors. They know that they have to keep living with each other. However long this war lasts, whether it's days, weeks, months, or years, they will continue to be neighbors, and they'll have to somehow deal with that.
Right. And I think the Iranians were relying on that. You know, the Iranians took a risk here because they believed that they were under existential threat. Assassination of leaders, attacking their infrastructure. Yep. And so this was not easy for them, I don't believe. It was planned, but it was not easy for them to lob missiles at Qatar in particular, because there was reasonable relationship there. But
let's remind our viewers, if you don't mind, that these two countries share the world's largest gas fields. So they're for Qatar, it's by far the biggest source of wealth, right?
Absolutely.
The gas is what has made Qatar what it is today. And for Iran, the gas is key to, especially to their domestic market. So both of them, they share this major source of wealth.
And if you go back just less than a decade, when Qatar, this country, was under blockade by Saudi Arabia and the UAE, who came...
Emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:52 and 35 seconds. Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Kafrakab, given Hahadasha, Jerusalem.
In order to put pressure on
Blast Radius Network Command Center.
The calculation, I think, was that at the end of the war, the Gulf Arab states, as angry as they are with Iran, that they know.
Emergency alert message detected.
The fact that they share this
Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:51 and 32 seconds. Shpalat Yehuda, Nataf, Ein Rafa, Ma'eli Hahamisha, Givat Yerim, Abu Ghosh, H. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
Okay. You're staying with us. We're joined by Osama bin Javed, who was at that press conference.
Emergency alert message detected.
Osama,
Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:51 and 41 seconds. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Kafrakab, given Hahadasha, Jerusalem.
Well, you see, this is in
Blast Radius Network Command Center.
You've seen Hakan Fidan talking to the Iranians, talking to the Saudis and everyone else in the region.
Emergency alert message detected.
In Qatar now.
Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:51 and 44 seconds. Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Kafrakab, given Hahadasha, Jerusalem.
To protect its
Blast Radius Network Command Center.
Relationship, not just in terms of geography, in terms of diplomacy, but military relations as well. And you
Emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 16:52 and 5 seconds. Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Kafrakab, given Hahadasha, Jerusalem. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
And dialogue, which is in stark contrast to the kind of language that you heard from the Saudi Foreign Minister, for instance, just under 24 hours
Intel
ago.
update.
To discuss that further with us is Faisal Mudhaka, who
Intel
is the editor
update.
of Gulf Times. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Intel
I was
update.
saying that there is a very different tone that you're
Intel
seeing from
update.
Qatar, even after coming under these attacks. Do
Intel
you really
update.
think that there is an off-ramp? There is some
Intel
space for
update.
diplomacy still left?
I think there is
Blast Radius Network, RT by at Blastradiusnet 1. Police car light new footage from CENTCOM. U.S. forces are destroying Iranian naval targets that threaten international shipping in and near the Strait of Hormuz. Pic.
And have immediate stop of this craziness. I don't think Iran has acted as a state. This kind of act.
Blast Radius Network, according to Qatar Energy CEO Saad Al-Kabi, Iran's attack on the RAS Laffan Indies Trial City damaged facilities that produce 17% of Qatar's LNG export capacity. The statement was made in an interview with Reuters. The damages are expected to take 2 to 3 years to repair fully.
Finish soon and wisdom comes back.
But you heard in Saudi Arabia,
OSINT warfare, the Islamic
India,
Revolutionary
and in
Guard
Qatar,
Corps
and
has
in the
released a
United Arab Emirates,
compilation showing the
calls
downing
for,
of US and Israeli
diverting
unmanned
Iran
aerial
to respond
vehicles,
militarily to Iran as well.
UAVs, using
We
GEM
know that the
118,
Emirates
CUM
and
118,
Bahrain have essentially
surface-to-air
been
missiles,
saying that there should be
PIC,
some sort of a military reaction to Iran
of
as well.
Hormuz PIC.
Do you think that is still on the cards? And what would be
Intel
the
update.
repercussions if such an action is taken?
I have not heard
Intel
about
update.
Emirates and Bahrain. What I know that
Department of War,
the region has
RT by
united to
Adept of War.
de-escalate this,
We will
and their
finish this
leaders
and
have
we
been
will
very
honor their
conscious.
sacrifice with decisive
But also
action.
Iran has to be very careful on what they are doing, attacking civilians, attacking the infrastructure. What are they aiming for? They are aiming for a disaster, making this places more chaos as it is in, and I think there are always a place for diplomacy, and there is always a place for de-escalation. Attending this press conference, I can sense that there is from the foreign minister of Turkey, Fidan, that there is His Excellency, that there is, I think, a channel that is open, and I hope they can build on that.
Thank you very much. Well, the mood here in Doha is that of de-escalation, even after those attacks, even after Iran wiped out nearly 17% for the next 3 to 5 years, according to Qatar Energy, its production and output, even after, as alerts were going on right before the foreign ministers came into this meeting. So it appears that the push is for de-escalation, the push is for an off-ramp, but the problem is that you've got a side that says that it was brought into this war not of its choosing, and it is going to end it on its own terms.
Osama bin Javed reporting from Doha just after that press conference that we saw between Qatar's Prime Minister and Turkey's Foreign Minister. Now we are joined by Zain Basravi. Zain is joining us from Dubai, monitoring developments really across the Gulf. Zain, in the last 24 hours, Iran targeted or hit energy sites, so we just heard in Qatar, of course, energy sites in Qatar, in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, and in Kuwait, and I might even be missing some countries on that list. How much damage did they do?
Well, we got a sense of what kind of damage happened from reporting by Reuters, where they spoke exclusively to the CEO of Qatar Energy, and the assessment of damage is dire. What we are hearing is that the facilities, which cost $26 billion to build some years back, will need to be repaired, and for production to restart, hostilities need to stop. That's not the case. And what we are hearing from Qatar Energy is that they will be losing 12.8 million tons of LNG per year for the next 3 to 5 years. So for up to 3 to 5 years, around 17% of Qatar's export capacity, the capacity to export liquid natural gas, which is the lifeblood of the Qatar economy, which is a massive resource. 20% of the world's LNG comes from Qatar. It is a vital link in the global energy chain. For the next 5 years, that's going to be severely impaired. And what Qatar Energy has said is that they may have to declare force majeure on long-term contracts for up to the next 5 years. That means supplies to Italy, Belgium, Korea, China are all going to be heavily compromised. This is a massive hit to the global energy supply.
All right, Mohammed Val joins us from the Iranian capital, Tehran. Mohammed, the U.S. president told Iran in his Truth Social post roughly this, that if you, Iran, don't attack Qatar's gas facilities again, like they did less than 24 hours ago, then your gas field, the Iranian South Pars gas field, won't be attacked again. The U.S. president seemed to be offering, he obviously worded it differently, but it seemed to be some kind of bargain that the U.S. president was offering Iran. How is Iran responding?
Well, there is no response in words, but I could say that probably there's been a response in action. Because after this statement by President Trump, we didn't see Iran attacking Ras Gas again. That's very important. It's interesting that there is a little bargain or a little kind of agreement offer coming from the Americans to the Iranians at a time when the Americans are saying that their goal is to obliterate Iran's capabilities in every respect, economic, military, and so on. So, I mean, the Iranians might have taken this as a positive gesture, and if they don't attack Ras Gas again, then this might be something that can be built on. They can talk again about other things, and they can widen the scope of this small window of opportunity within this big situation of chaos. We understand that there have always been efforts by several countries to bring the two sides to the negotiation table. The two sides have been saying they're not interested in that, but now we are seeing if the Iranians have heeded Trump's conditions and requests, then we are seeing indirect negotiations or somehow direct negotiations between the two sides of this war without even any intermediary or any kind of mediation between them. They are talking in this way somehow, if I understand the situation well, and that is a window of opportunity for them to at least set some limits and guardrails against complete chaos in this war. Because the rhetoric that is being propagated from the two sides until now was very different from this, and it is a rhetoric of a zero-sum game where each one of the two sides is trying to really defeat the other side, and the Iranians have already said that they have nothing to lose in this war because it is an existential war that has been imposed on them, and they're not afraid of anything that might happen because they have decided to use every means they have to defend themselves.
Yeah, Mohammed, I think you raise a very interesting point about setting guardrails against complete chaos in this war. That's something we'll explore a little bit later in the program. That's Mohammed Val reporting from Tehran, and Zain Basravi in Dubai. Thank you very much to you for your reporting as well. Thanks, Zain. Now, Israeli officials say Wednesday's strike on Iran's South Pars gas facilities was, quote, coordinated with the United States, but is unlikely to be repeated. Well, that's in contradiction with what the U.S. president said, Donald Trump, posting on Truth Social that Washington had no prior knowledge of that attack. Iran responded to that with strikes, as we just said, on energy installations across the Gulf. Let's unpack this. Noor O'Day joins us. Noor, you're live from Ramallah. That's in the occupied West Bank. So there's this direct contradiction now between what Trump wrote on his social media and what we're now hearing from multiple Israeli sources. What do we know, and can you walk us through this?
Well, Sarah, what we know is that the Israelis were adamant from the get-go, right when they announced this strike on Iran's Pars field, that this was done in coordination with the U.S. administration and with its consent. This is an operational no-brainer. There are, this is a war zone. There are planes flying around. People who are flying those planes would probably have to coordinate with one another. But more importantly, politically, this was understood to be a strategic strike that Israel couldn't just do on its own. So even today, the Israelis are adamant. The U.S. knew about this, but that for now, that Israel is willing to consider this a message to Iran, and that it wouldn't do it again. It's really kept like this, and we've heard a lot of irony and mockery, really, in Israeli commentary. In fact, one member of Israel's security cabinet kind of lamented mockingly that Israel doesn't have oil and gas that Iran can target, and so well it is now targeting the Gulf. There is really no sympathy expressed at the price that neighboring Gulf countries are paying for Israeli actions.
Yeah, and Noor, I'm just rereading the words of Donald Trump on his Truth Social, and he wrote in all caps, this was less than 24 hours ago, no more attacks will be made by Israel. And the latest information we have from these Israeli sources is attacks are unlikely. So again, they're not saying exactly the same thing. It could end up mattering very much in this war. Noor, something else. No. There have been Iranian strikes on Israel in the last few minutes. What have you been able to learn about that?
Well, what we've been able to gather, Cyril, away from the military censor because of eyewitness accounts, is that it seems there were several impact sites in Haifa and the Haifa Bay. Now, this is important. It is significant. It may even be strategic because the Haifa Bay is home to Israel's oil refineries and petrochemical industry. So there may actually, after all, be a situation where that member of the Israeli Security Cabinet could have been proven wrong and that Iran is making good on its promise to also retaliate in Israel against those strikes in Isfahan, in Pars Field, and elsewhere. We're waiting to see confirmation. The Israeli military censor has been really tough about, blocking information, not releasing it, ordering the blackout on certain impact sites, naming something very general like impact in central Israel when we have no idea what that means, and then maybe drip-dropping the information days later, as we saw with the damage to planes in the Ben Gurion airport. We will keep an eye on that and keep you posted with all the latest developments and visuals that we may be able to collect.
Noor O'Day reporting from Ramallah. Thank you very much, Noor. And the U.S. Pentagon has been giving a briefing on progress in the war on Iran. Speaking alongside Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, that's General Dan Kane, said that Iran's missile capability still has not run out.
They came into this fight with a lot of weapons. This is why we continue to be as aggressive and assertive as we can against their ballistic missile capability, both their medium-range ballistic missile capability and their short-range missile capability. So we are continuing to hunt and find them and kill them, and we will continue to do so. So they still retain some capability. And we have layered defenses throughout the region that will allow us to protect those, and we're working with our partners across the Gulf region to help them improve their defensive capabilities.
Emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 17:12 and 54 seconds. Center Galilee, Arab Al Naim, Eschart, Teradion Industrial Zone, Signan, Esh. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
Well, what we saw is suddenly again
emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 17:12 and 18 seconds. Upper Galilee, Baina, Carmel Center Galilee, Signan, Teradion Industrial. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
For this country, also saying that there is no finishing date, that they do not have a time frame.
Emergency alert message detected.
This could end.
Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 17:12 and 13 seconds. Center Galilee, Signan, Teradion Industrial Zone Rocket Alert. Live. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
Not be attacking any Gulf neighbors, so the United States allies, saying that they're trying to create pain in the region. And it's interesting also that Hex has said that they want to increase the capacity of the Gulf states, the defense capacity of the Gulf states, in order to prevent this type of attacks that have been ongoing. So suddenly the press conference was once again the United States trying to present a victory message that for many does not in a way reflect the reality on the ground, saying that the United States is in control in Iran, what the government continues to be in control of the country, and also this victory message that in many other parts of the world the people are not seeing right now.
Teresa, the cost of the war, we're 19 days in right now, and the cost of the war for the U.S. is adding up. The Pentagon is reportedly asking for $200 billion of funding to keep fighting this war. The Defense Secretary was asked about that. What did he say?
Well, what he basically says is that the Pentagon right now needs more money to kill the bad guys. Those were his precise words. And he also said that the Pentagon had requested the White House $200 billion more to keep this war going. And this does not come as a surprise, as last week the Pentagon briefed lawmakers here in Congress, saying that only in the first 6 days of the war had cost around or over $11 billion. So certainly that's a priority right now for the Pentagon to keep this war going, and that's why they're requesting extra funding. This is what the Secretary of War had to say.
As far as $200 billion, I think that number could move. Obviously, it takes money to kill bad guys. So we're going back to Congress and our folks there to ensure that we're properly funded for what's been done, for what we may have to do in the future, ensure that our ammunition is everything's refilled, and not just refilled, but above and beyond.
So certainly the Pentagon right now needs more money to get this war going. And it's part of a whole strategy from the White House right now. Let's not forget that in January, Donald Trump requested Congress at a point to increase the U.S. defense budget from $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion. He says that this is something that would allow this country to have a dream military. So now definitely Pentagon is requesting $200 billion extra to continue with the war in Iran.
Teresa Bow reporting just outside the Pentagon. Thank you very much, Teresa. Joining us now in the studio is Ross Harrison, Senior Fellow at the Middle East Institute in Washington, D.C., and author of Decoding Iran's Foreign Policy. And from Tehran is Abbas Aslani, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for Middle East Strategic Studies. Ross, I wanted to ask you, how do you read Donald Trump's Truth Social post? I think it's the latest one, unless he's been writing again in the last few moments, where it sounded to me like a bargain that he was proposing to Iran. He was saying to Iran, don't hit Qatar's natural gas, and Israel won't hit your natural gas. So it sounds like he's trying to place limits. And our Tehran correspondent, Mohammed Val, was saying something similar, putting guardrails on this war before it totally spins out of control. How do you read that? Is it guardrails?
Well, I don't know if it's guardrails, Cyril, but I think that bargaining can take place on the battlefield, not just at a negotiating table. And I think that's what you're seeing here to some degree. There is no, to our knowledge, excuse me, there's no diplomatic path at this point between the United States and Iran. But I think what you're seeing through the messaging of Foreign Minister Agassi in Iran and Donald Trump in Washington, I think you're seeing potentially some informal bargaining. I think the other thing you're seeing, Cyril, is perhaps some concern about Israeli actions damaging U.S. interests. You know, one of the things I think is important for your viewers to keep in mind is that in Israel, the war is largely popular. Roughly 80% of the population supports the war. In the United States, it's unpopular. And plus, Israel is a regional power. So it focuses on its regional interests, and the U.S. has to focus on its global interests. And what is it hearing, Cyril? It's hearing from Qatar, from all the Gulf Arab states, and from Turkey, and from all of its allies, that this war has to stop. So I think what you're seeing is Trump trying to perhaps send a signal to Israel, but also through, not necessarily through talks, but through posts and maybe through some actions and maybe through some, hopefully, eventually, some kind of de-escalation, you're seeing some kind of informal bargaining going on. That would be the hope. But given the fluidity of words coming out of Washington, we cannot rely on that.
Fluidity of words, eloquently put. Abbas, you're in Tehran. I wonder how you look at it from the Iranian capital. Do you think that there could be, formally or informally, but one way or another, do you think there could be some kind of agreement between Washington and Iran? Hey, there are some things that we won't hit. There is some level of escalation that we don't want to reach.
Cyril, it seems that the U.S. president and his administration are trapped in an escalation ladder whereby they are seeing that, Iran geographically has advantages also, as well as a symmetrical method. But in the meantime, we are seeing that Israelis are trying to bring more escalation at a time that everybody is thinking of an off-ramp to exit this war. Israelis are trying to prolong the conflict through bringing further escalation and in parallel conducting, round of assassinations here in Tehran. It seems that they are not happy to see this end to come. And through the recent escalation, everybody in the region, excluding Israel, are losing. Even Iran, which its energy infrastructure was earlier attacked, also the other regional countries. But there can be somehow, I think, a balance to be achieved at the moment that the two sides see that, initiating aggression against the energy infrastructure could be to the detriment of the whole parties. And it depends on, from now on, what Israel and the United States will do. And but if they engage again in further, escalation, Iran will respond. We are at the time that, Iran wants to establish a new security arrangement whereby there will be no future, attack against the country. When Tehran sees, amid the ongoing war, further escalation, it sees that security arrangement is not approaching to be, or is not being established. So at least there is some time left to establish it. It makes Iran to respond. But it depends also, I think, on the other side to stop that escalation.
Yeah, so actually, to that point, which you also made a little earlier, you said something along the lines of Israel's thinking only of escalation, where everybody's looking for an off-ramp. I would point out that Iran has responded to every strike and every escalation with a counter-escalation of its own. And Iran also has agency, and it is part and parcel of why we are where we are today. You say everybody's looking for an off-ramp. I don't think we've seen Iran look for an off-ramp, or at least not publicly so far. But I want to take it to Ross for a point that Abbas made, saying it depends on what Israel and the U.S. will do now. It is the second time in 19 or 18 days of war that Israel has gone reportedly further in its targeting than what the U.S. would have liked, right? By striking the oil depots in Tehran, which sent all of this toxic smoke across the Iranian capital, and then by striking Iran's gas fields. That was less than 24 hours ago. And Donald Trump said, we didn't know about it, and we didn't want it to happen. How do you read this split, apparent split? We don't even know if it's genuine, because the Israelis say, actually, the U.S. did know. But how do you read that split? And can the U.S. restrain Israel, if you think that split is real?
Well, first, let me comment on something Abbas said, because I think he's spot on in the sense that Iran eventually is going to want an off-ramp, right? But I think right now, their concern, to his point, is that if this war ends prematurely, and if they lose the escalation dominant role here, then they're going back to the status quo ante after the September war of 2025, the June war of 2025, when they believe they lost deterrence. So their goal is to establish a new, I call it a deterrent paradigm. Abbas calls it a security paradigm, where at the end of this war, there will be severe disincentives, or complete disincentives, for Israel and the United States to ever do this again. So in terms of reading the split between Washington and Jerusalem, that's hard to read. I think that what the Iranians have relied on here, Cyril, is that their aggression in the Gulf would eventually divide the Gulf states from the United States, because they would believe, the Gulf states would believe, that the United States and Israel were the aggressor, and therefore that would split them. And eventually, it might even, if they put enough pressure, economic pressure, on the Gulf states, that would then transition to pressure on Donald Trump, that could also create a split with Jerusalem. Whether we're seeing that now, signals of that remains to be seen, because it's hard to read the tea leaves in terms of what's being said in Washington, what's being said in Jerusalem. But it appears that the United States is going to bear the political cost and potentially the economic cost of this conflict to a much greater extent than will Israel. And that could be a problem. And Israel, to prosecute this war, remember, Israel's in a bit of a trap in a way, because it now is fighting a multi-front war. It could not, I'm not a military expert, but to my knowledge, they could not be fighting a multi-front war without the support from the United States. So it's engaging a war in Lebanon and Iran. If the United States would peel away, or there would be some degradation of support from the United States, Israel could be caught in a multi-front conflict that it can't handle. So that's what the Israelis have to at least be concerned about. But it's too early to see whether these are whether there's any kind of predictors that can come from this.
Ross Harrison, Abbas Aslani in Tehran. We're going to have to leave it here for now, but we'll pick up this conversation. Thank you very much to both of you.
Thank you.
You're watching Al Jazeera. A reminder of our headlines this hour. Energy prices have surged after Iran struck the world's largest liquefied natural gas complex in Qatar. Qatar's state energy company says that it will take 3 to 5 years to repair the damage. The CEO of Qatar Energy says liquefied natural gas exports will drop by about 17% for the coming years. The country is calling for diplomacy and regional respect after Israelis and Iranian attacks targeted regional energy facilities. Iran's army has warned it will completely destroy the energy infrastructure of Washington's Gulf allies if its own facilities are attacked again. The UK, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Japan have issued a joint statement on the Strait of Hormuz. They have condemned in the strongest terms Iran's attacks on commercial vessels in the Gulf and have called on the country to cease its threats, laying of mines, drone and missile attacks, and other attempts to block the strait. 6 nations say that they are ready to contribute to what they describe as appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait, and go on to promise other steps to stabilize energy markets. These include working with certain producing nations to increase output. Al Jazeera's Natasha Butler is live from Paris. Natasha, some of this language, much of it I would say, is quite vague. What do we actually learn from this statement?
Yes, it is indeed the statement by 6 countries. As you say, the leader also of France on that statement. Now, clearly, these countries are increasingly concerned about this escalating conflict. They are concerned about its human cost, and they are very worried about what is happening with energy prices. They're calling there, we saw in that statement, on Iran to stop its strikes on those commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, also to stop its strikes on civilian infrastructure and also energy infrastructure. We saw what happened in Qatar a bit earlier. And then that vague language that you have referred to, I mean, it is clearly not clear what they are exactly saying. We were just in a French foreign ministers meeting a bit earlier, and I asked about this statement because the statement talks about some sort of preparations being made, perhaps to secure the Strait of Hormuz. It talks about various nations coming together to do that, but it is vague. Now, what the spokesman at the French Foreign Ministry, the Quai d'Orsay here, said to me was, look, yes, we are talking amongst allies and we're looking at the steps we can take together to try and secure safe passage for ships. But the stage at which they are at, he wouldn't go any further. He wouldn't say whether or not they are at a stage of knowing exactly which countries are going to take part, exactly when this might happen. I did also ask him whether or not the United States was being briefed, whether it was going to be involved. He said, of course, the United States is being
Intel
briefed, but
update.
he wouldn't say whether or not the US would be involved.
Intel
but what
update.
we do know is a bit earlier in the week, the French President Emmanuel
Blast
Macron
Radius
did address
Network,
this.
RT by at Blast Radius Net 1. Police car light breaking. Footage shows smoke billowing from oil refineries in Haifa following Iran's latest ballistic missile strike.
Now, clearly, we are not in a situation that is calm at all now. So it is not clear, again, whether or not we are going to see any of these countries, these 6 nations, come together to try and actually move forward
Intel
with any
update.
plans to try and secure that strait.
Natasha
I
Butler
see.
reporting from Paris. Thank you very much. Natasha.
OSINT warfare. An Iranian ballistic missile directly struck a power plant in Haifa during the latest round of strikes, causing a fire.
Look at these pictures.
Pick.
These are the very latest pictures that we're getting out of Haifa in Israel, where our correspondent Noor O'Day was reporting a moment ago that there has been what appears to be a hit. Now, did it come from Iran? Did it come from Hezbollah in Lebanon? For the moment, we can't tell you, but we are monitoring that. Joining me now from Columbus, Ohio, is Peter Mansour. Peter is a retired United States Army officer and a military historian. We'll try and tap into that in just a moment. We got a briefing, another one of those Pentagon briefings. There have been, I think, 4 or 5 by my count since the start of the war. I listened to this one, and I have to say it's the one with the least amount of content and update that I can, gather since this war started. I'm wondering what you take away from it and where this U.S. military campaign currently stands against Iran. Because what the Pentagon is projecting is it's going very well. We're disabling their Navy, their missiles, their drones. You listen to them, and their scorecard is all green. They at least project complete confidence with where they are. How do you assess this military campaign?
I don't know how many times you can say we're continuing to bomb Iran. I mean, every morning they come before the American people in the world and they say that the campaign is going well, maybe a little ahead of schedule. They've got their list of targets. They're working through them. They've got complete air dominance over Iran, so they can use a variety of platforms to strike a variety of facilities. And I think at the tactical and operational level, the administration is very happy with what's going on. What they didn't expect was the retaliation by Iran. Even though the military warned that Iran had the capability to close the Strait of Hormuz, I think the president just didn't believe it and thought that the Iranian regime would collapse after its supreme leader and its top military and political leaders had been killed. So right now, the campaign is in flux, somewhat of a stalemate, with bombing continuing, but the Strait of Hormuz closed.
The first time we heard from Pete Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, in this kind of press briefing format, so this takes us back about 17 days when the war started, or 18 days, I got the sense, or at least they were telling us, we're going to take out all the missiles and drones until we reach a point when they can no longer fire them. And it seems to me that's now changing. First of all, there's still missiles and drones being fired every day at least half a dozen countries across the Gulf and the Middle East. That's one. And secondly, what we're hearing from the Pentagon is changing a little bit. They're now saying, and the president's saying the same thing, they will always be, meaning Iran will always be able to lay a mine in the Strait of Hormuz or fire a short-range ballistic missile or a rocket. Is that a change of tone that to you is significant?
I think reality is staring them in the face. They have done a lot to reduce Iran's capability to fire missiles and drones. They've destroyed 90 to 95% of the launchers, but it's almost impossible to destroy 100%. And so Iran will likely have the capability to fire small numbers of missiles and drones for the indefinite future. And that is going to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, because if you're a civilian aboard an oil tanker, why would you take the chance of transiting the strait and being hit? Even one drone hitting an oil tanker can cause a lot of damage. So this is something that the administration is going to have to figure out. We actually know how to open the Strait of Hormuz, but it's going to be very expensive and will probably require U.S. boots on the ground in the littoral region on both sides of the strait.
Say more about that, please. You say that it's possible to open the Strait of Hormuz. I think that has been an open question for the last few days, whether it was possible or not. But you say it requires boots on the ground.
Yeah, you have to take the coastline on the Iranian side of the strait, clear out any launching points for drones, and establish air defense bases that can create local air superiority and anti-drone capability, anti-missile capabilities in the area, rather than relying on naval platforms to do that. But that, of course, then is going to require the troops to come into contact with Iranian ground units, and you're going to have a ground component to this war, which is not what this administration wants.
So in that scenario, we're talking about a partial ground invasion. That also sounds like it would take a long time.
Clearing the strait might not take a long time, but you have to keep the troops there until Iran comes to an agreement to stop the trying to close the strait. And that could take a very, very long time, because that's their only leverage in determining the outcome of this conflict. They want to use their ability to interdict the strait to get better terms at the negotiating table.
I'd like to tap into your expertise as a military historian. The U.S. is the world's preeminent military power, and they are waging a war along with another formidable military power, which is Israel. So together, they vastly outmatch Iran. I think that's nobody's contesting that. And yet we've seen the U.S. as, again, the preeminent military power in the world, lose multiple wars in the last few decades. So what does history teach us about this situation?
Well, I recall the time in the Paris peace negotiations that ended the U.S. involvement in Vietnam. when Colonel Harry Summers, a U.S. Army colonel, looked at his Vietnamese counterpart, his North Vietnamese counterpart, and said, "You know, we won every battle in this war." And the Vietnamese counterpart looked at him and he goes, "That may be true, but it's also irrelevant because look who won the war." There are other components other than simply military dominance that factor into whether wars are won or lost. A national will to prosecute the conflict, diplomacy, and staying power. And Iran is in the region. I mean, it's not going anywhere. The United States, this is a very expensive conflict, and it doesn't have the support of the American people. So it's going to be very difficult for the United States to come out of this the victor, barring some unforeseen development in the military campaign.
Winning every battle but losing the war. You mentioned the Vietnam example. Do you think that is what is staring the U.S. in the face in Iran, or not necessarily?
Perhaps. There's no doubt that the Iranian regime has been greatly weakened by this campaign. And in war, the unexpected can happen. So maybe we do reach a tipping point where the Iranian regime is attrited to the point where it decides to give in. We haven't reached that point yet, and it's unlikely that we will for the near future. But it's not impossible for that to happen. But the most likely scenario is the war continues. Iran continues to try to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, put pressure on the world economy, and put pressure on the Trump administration to basically stop the bombing campaign, declare victory, and bring the forces home.
Peter Mansour, retired U.S. Army officer and a military historian, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Japan's prime minister is in Washington right now for talks with the U.S. president. Sanae Takaishi landed at Joint Base Andrews on Wednesday ahead of the meetings expected to focus on Donald Trump's call for America's allies to assist in securing the Strait of Hormuz. Takaishi has said that she expects the talks with Trump will be difficult. Well, Asian countries have their own concerns in this conflict. About 80% of the oil that usually passes through the Strait of Hormuz would be headed to Asian markets. And Japan and South Korea import more than 80% of their oil through Hormuz. For India, it's about 37%. For China, around 25%. When shipping routes are under threat, these economies are especially exposed. The first impact of any disruption is higher prices. Every $10 increase in oil prices adds roughly $160 billion a year to the world's oil import bill. Let's go now to our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett. So, Kimberly, I'm not sure what the timing is on this visit by the Japanese Prime Minister, Sanae Takaishi, but what do you expect from that?
Yeah, well, it should have happened by now. We should be seeing them in front of the cameras in the Oval Office. But according to the pool reports, the pool is still waiting. So we are watching carefully to see when they will go into the Oval Office. But in the interim, what we can tell you is that when it comes to this meeting, we expect it to be largely overshadowed in terms of the goals that the Prime Minister of Japan was looking to achieve. And the reason is, as you point out, Donald Trump has been calling for Japan, as well as other allies, to secure the Strait of Hormuz. And what we know is that Japan initially refused that call. We expect it to be largely overshadowed in terms of enormous pressure by the U.S. president in order to change that decision. But here's the problem. Japan's constitution, number one, mandates that the military be used primarily for defense. And so there is a constitutional issue for the Japanese prime minister in agreeing to Donald Trump's demands. The other is that the war isn't just unpopular here in the United States. It's even more unpopular in Japan. 82% citizens oppose it. So it would be very difficult for her to agree to this politically. But in terms of the agenda, what she had initially been scheduling this visit for was to talk about security, to talk about investment. You'll remember that Trump's tariffs, Japan was able to negotiate down last year because Japan promised to make some U.S. investments. So we're expecting that there will be announcements about that. But again, once those cameras turn on, we expect the conversation mostly to focus on what's happening in Iran and Donald Trump's pressure on the Japanese prime minister to join that coalition to secure the Strait of Hormuz.
About that, Kimberly, I'm hoping you can clarify something for us. Hold on. By the way, I am just letting our viewers know we now see Trump in the White House. Let's go live to this.
Great to have you.
All right, hold on.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's great to have you. And we have a very special person, just won a tremendous election in a record-setting fashion. So you have something in common. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's great to have you. And we have a very special person, just won a tremendous election in a record-setting fashion. So you have something in common. And I was very proud and honored to endorse the Prime Minister because of the fact that I felt she was really good. I thought she did a fantastic job. I respect her a lot, so I gave her an endorsement. And she had the most successful election, in my opinion, in the history of Japan, won by the most ever. So we have a very popular, powerful woman. And she's a great woman. We have a very fine relationship, and we're going to be talking about trade and many other things. And it's an honor to have you. Thank you very much.
皆様ありがとうございます。本日は非常に特別な方にいらしていただいております。歴史的な選挙の圧勝ということで、私と共通するものがあると思います。私たち素晴らしい絆を持っておりまして、だからこそ私の方からも応援のメッセージを出させていただきました。素晴らしい人であり、私も心から尊敬している方です。日本の歴史上最も素晴らしい選挙で圧勝したということで、人気の高い女性であり、すごい方だと私も思っております。絆を持っておりまして、だからこそ私の方からも応援のメッセージを出させていただきます。
Emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 17:39 and 3 seconds. Confrontation line, Kiryachmana, Margaliat rocket alert.live. Blast Radius Network Command Center. Emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 17:39 and 12 seconds. Confrontation line, Kiryachmana rocket alert.live. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
A very severe security environment. そして世界経済もかなり厳しい影響を受けつつあります。
Emergency alert message detected. Rocket/missile alert March 19, 2026, 17:38 and 54 seconds. Confrontation line, Kiryachmana rocket alert.live. Blast Radius Network Command Center.
平和と繁栄をもたらせるのはドナルドだけだと思っています。
But even against that backdrop, I firmly believe that it is
Intel
only you,
update.
Donald, who can achieve peace.
OSINT warfare. The US F-35 multi-role fighter made an emergency landing in the Middle East after being hit by suspected Iranian fire during a mission over Iran.
Do so. I am ready to reach out to many of the partners in the international community to achieve our objective together.
今日私はそれを伝えに来ました。
So today I came here at the White House to directly convey this message to you.
そしてイランに関してはもう核兵器の開発、これは許されてはならないことですから日本も働きかけをしてきました。
And speaking of the situation in Iran, Iran's development of nuclear weapons must never be allowed. And that is why we, Japan, have been urging them and also reaching out to other partners in the world.
そして我が国は周辺国に対する攻撃、ホルムズ海峡の実質的な閉鎖についても、これは非難をし、そして茂木外務大臣からもイランの外務大臣に対してそれをやめるように申し入れをしてきました。
In addition, Japan condemns Iran's actions, such as attacking the neighboring region, and also the de facto or effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz. As a matter of fact, my fellow minister, Minister Motegi, Foreign Minister Motegi, also had the direct exchange with the Iranian foreign minister and urged Iran to stop such activities.
Yeah, you'll let me know. You'll let me know.
それでとにかく今中東だけじゃなくてインド太平洋の安全保障環境も大変厳しい中にあります。そんな中でドナルドが日本に深い信頼を寄せてくれて、で揺るぎない同盟にコミットメントしてくれていることに感謝をいたしております。
And also the security environment in the Indo-Pacific region is also becoming increasingly severe. Donald, you have shown deep trust in Japan and also the unwavering commitment to the Japan-US alliance. Once again, thank you very much for that.
今日は日本とアメリカが共に強く豊かになっていくための話し合いをしたいと思っています。
And today, I look forward to having a discussion on how we can cooperate to make our two nations, both Japan and the United States, stronger and more prosperous.
それから世界のエネルギーマーケットを落ち着かせるための提案も持ってまいりました。
And I also brought specific proposals to calm down the global energy market.
この後主に経済安全保障、重要鉱物ですとかエネルギーに関する協力、そしてお互いに強い経済を作るための成長のための話し合い、経済成長のための話し合いをしたいと思っています。Thank you, Donald.
So today, I really look forward to having our discussion, particularly focusing on our collaboration in economic security in the important areas such as energy and rare earth minerals. And also, I look forward to discussing with you how we can make our two economies stronger moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And you're doing a great job. Again, congratulations on the biggest win in the history of Japan. That's not bad. That's a pretty long history. That's a large nation with with a great reputation, but it's a tremendous victory. Congratulations to everybody. Very proud of you. Very proud of you. We become friends, and I'm very proud of the job you've done. It's not easy. Any questions, please?
Mr. President, are you fully satisfied with the level of support that you're getting from Japan on Iran, including around minesweepers?
Well, we're going to be speaking about it today. Go ahead, you can go.
日本から機雷艇などの支援に関して、その点について今の状況に満足していらっしゃいますか?
We're going to be speaking about it today. We've had tremendous support and relationship with Japan on everything. And I believe that based on statements that were given to us yesterday, the day before yesterday, having to do with Japan, they are really stepping up to the plate. Yes.
非常に日本政府から素晴らしい支援を受けていると思います。おとといのコメントから、日本からはそれに対して非常に力強いメッセージを得ていると私は思っています。
Unlike NATO.
NATO とは全く違いますね。
Please.
Mr. President, do you intend to lift sanctions on Iranian oil, and do you intend to potentially put U.S. troops or more troops in the region?
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you. But I'm not putting troops, and we will do whatever is necessary to keep the price as low. I actually thought when I did this, look, the Dow just hit 50,000 a couple of weeks ago. They said that couldn't happen for 4 years. It wouldn't happen in my term. It's such an outrageous thing because I said it would happen. I didn't know it was going to happen that fast, but it just hit 50,000, and we did that in 1 year, not 4. S&P had just hit 7,000. They said that was even more impossible than the Dow hitting 50. And we did that in 1 year. So it's all done Everything was going great. The economy was great. Oil prices were very low. Gasoline was dropping to, I mean, we had $1.99, $1.85. We had great everything. And I saw what was happening in Iran, and I said, I hate to make this excursion, but we're going to have to do it. And I actually thought the numbers would be worse. I thought that it would go up more than it did. But we're doing this excursion, and when it's completed, we're going to have a much safer world. And the Prime Minister agrees with me on this. She considers it to be terrible what Iran did. I think every country does, just about every country does. Iran is a serious threat to the world, to the Middle East and to the world. And everybody agrees with me. I think virtually every country agrees with me on that. So I wanted to put out that fire. And I said, you know, if I do that, oil prices will go up, the economy will go down a little bit. I thought it would be worse, much worse, actually. I thought there was a chance it could be much worse. It's not bad, and it's going to be over with pretty soon. We've obliterated their Navy. We've obliterated their just about everything there is to obliterate, including leadership. Their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft equipment is gone. We're flying wherever we want, Pete. We have nobody even shooting at us. They have, I mean, and as you know, their leadership is gone. Their leaders are gone. They pick new leaders, they're gone. They pick new leaders, they're gone. And now they're looking for new leaders again. We can take out the island if anytime we want. I call it the little oil island that sits there, so totally unprotected. And we've taken out everything but the pipes. We left the pipes because to rebuild the pipes would take years for them to do. But we are, I would say, we are substantially ahead of schedule. And I had to do this. I call it an excursion. I had to take this little excursion and do something that no other president had the courage to do. And everybody wanted to do it, but they never had the courage to do it. And I don't blame them. I'm not blaming them. It was left to me, and we've done a great job. Our military is incredible. We have an incredible military. We have the strongest military in the world by far. We have the greatest equipment in the world by far. In fact, Japan buys our equipment, buys a lot of it, and we're honored by that. And that's one of the things we'll be talking. They want to buy a lot of the military equipment. So it's just an honor to have the Prime Minister. We've had a tremendous relationship. Okay.
Mr. President.
I think she's going to have to go first before you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Do you understand? It's very good. I tell you. I mean, it's so nice that we don't have to sit. No, it's very good. I haven't picked up your language, so the next time you come, I'll have your language mastered. All right, go ahead.
If the war is almost over, why is the Pentagon going to ask Congress for an additional $200 billion?
Well, we're asking for a lot of reasons beyond even what we're talking about in Iran. This is a very volatile world, and the military equipment, the power of some of this weaponry is unthinkable. You don't even want to know about it. Oh, you could end this thing in 2 seconds if you wanted to, but we are being very judicious. But we want to do. Don't forget, Biden gave away. I rebuilt the military in my first term. Biden gave away so stupidly to Afghanistan a lot. He didn't want to move it. He was too lazy, too stupid to move it. But it was a very small amount. It was a lot, but it was very small relative to what I purchased and what I built. We want to have vast amounts of ammunition, which we have right now. We have a lot of ammunition, but it was taken down by giving so much to Ukraine. They gave so much. Biden gave $350 billion worth of cash and military equipment to Ukraine, and he didn't rebuild anything. Fortunately, we have a lot. We have a tremendous, unlimited supply of what you'd call middle and upper middle armaments and military equipment, munitions, armaments, but munitions in particular. At the high end, we have a lot, but we're preserving it. We don't really need it. But we're building, our manufacturers of military equipment are building at a level they've never seen before, they've never done before. Pete's in charge of it with all of us, really. But Pete's been very, very strong on it. The general and Pete, myself, the whole group. And Raytheon is building 4 factories. Lockheed is building 5 or 6 factories, and they're building them fast because we had a very tough meeting with them. They were going out and buying back stock for $51 billion in one case. They spent $51 billion buying back stock. Now they're not allowed to do that. And they are now building a tremendous, there's never been anything like it, what's taking place right now. So we're in very good shape, but we want to be in the best shape we've ever been in. We were that, you know, when I rebuilt the military, we were in great shape, and then Biden blew it, and he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. And if you listen to the Democrats, they don't even want to have a military. Now you see how important it is. But we have the strongest military in the world. We have the best equipment. We make by far the best equipment. The other night, they had 114 rockets shot at a certain location. And out of 100 highly sophisticated rockets, out of 114 sophisticated rockets, every single one of them was shot down with our equipment. All our equipment. It's amazing, actually, how good it is. So we want to be sure, and it's a small price to pay to make sure that we stay tippy-top.
Mr. President, you said... Mr. President, the Treasury Secretary this morning said there were defections among Iranian leadership. Are you aware of that, and is there anybody the U.S. can work with as a leader going forward?
Well, we have a man named the Treasury Secretary here, so maybe he wants to discuss it. Does anybody know? Do you know who he is? Central Casting.
Yeah, so Ed, we are seeing the defections at all levels as they're starting to sense what's going on with the regime. It doesn't get reported here in the U.S. very well, but you know we are trouncing them from the air, and the regime will probably collapse within itself. At Treasury, we've seen where they've wired their money out of the country. We're coming for that. We're going to get it back to the Iranian people.
Mr. President, seeing defections?
Is Israel...
There's a lot of military defections also. You have a lot of military defections in Iran. I don't blame them.
Thank you, Mr. President. Have you talked to Prime Minister Netanyahu about attacking the oil and gas fields?
Yeah, I did. I told him, don't do that, and he won't do that. We didn't discuss. You know, we do, we're independent, we get along great. It's coordinated, but on occasion, he'll do something, and if I don't like it, and so we're not doing that anymore.
And the last one, if I could, the Fed chairman told me yesterday that he plans to stay until a new Fed chairman is confirmed, and he also plans to stay on the board until the investigation into the Federal Reserve is done.
Well, he's under investigation because he's building a building for hundreds of billions of dollars more than it's supposed to cost. The building you see over there is under budget and ahead of schedule. That's the ballroom. The ballroom is a much bigger building. It's a much more complex building than what he's doing, and it's at a fraction of the cost. Something is going on, whether it's contractors. That's what I do best in the world. I build great buildings. I've always done it, and I build them under budget and ahead of schedule. They could have $4 billion. This is a renovation job for $4 billion. And if you look at the building, it's not even, I don't know if Kevin Warsh is ever going to be able to move into it. It's been under construction for years. It's the most expensive building ever built. Now, I know it's gross incompetent because I happen to think he's grossly incompetent. Today, certainly you should be lowering interest rates, all right? Certainly, who would not lower them? But he's stubborn, and he's got Trump derangement syndrome. But a lot of people have that, you know. It's not a curable disease. But he's also building. He should be lowering rates immediately. But he won't do that because he's a stubborn, incompetent person, and that's a bad thing. You know, when you're stubborn and incompetent, I think it's the worst combination. And he's also not a smart person. But he's building a complex over there that's under his jurisdiction. He started it, and it's out of control. It's billions of dollars for a little building. I could have done that building and made it beautiful for $25 million. $25 million, and it would have been beautiful. Look what I've done at the White House, fixing it up. And I mean, the place was in bad shape. You see the floors and everything. It was in bad shape. I could have made that building beautiful for $25 million. They're spending $4 billion. All right. So there is criminality. Maybe it's with the contractor, but because I know more about contractors than any human being maybe that's ever lived, but that contractor is a very rich man. Whoever the contractor is, and we know, but whoever the contractor is an extremely rich man. He's going to make, I mean, he could make millions of dollars. I'm hearing numbers from $3 to $4 billion. That would make it the most expensive building on a square foot basis ever built in history. And you're not even building a building, it's a renovation. The exterior skin is staying, the steel is staying, the structure. So all I want to do is bring out to the public that this guy is an incompetent. He's a very incompetent guy. And he may be a dishonest guy, but somebody's dishonest because there's no way that building can be $3 to $4 billion.
Mr. President, on the Strait of Hormuz.
Thank you.
Please.
Mr. President, you just mentioned Japan.
This looks like one of your people right here.
Thank you.
Is he good or bad? Good. Is he a good reporter or bad? You know?
So.
Not a, all right, looks like a nice guy. Go ahead.
Mr. President, you just mentioned Japan is stepping up. What kind of the support do you expect from Japan in the future?
Look, I expect Japan to step up because, you know, we have that kind of relationship. And we step up for Japan. We have 45,000 soldiers in Japan. We spend a lot of money on Japan. And we've had that kind of a relationship. So I expect, I'm not surprised that they would step up. We don't need much. We don't need anything. I mean, honestly, we don't need anything from Japan or from anyone else. But I think it's appropriate that people step up. In the case of Japan, I hear they get more than 90% of their oil through the strait. So that's a big reason to step up. I mean, we've demolished, that country is close to demolished. The only thing is the strait. It's very hard. You could take two people and they could drop little bombs in the water and they're holding things up. We don't want that to happen. But honestly, Japan, China, Europe, parts of Europe, get a lot of their oil through the strait. We get none, practically. We're less than 1%. We don't have to be any percent. We don't even, I think we do it just to be nice. But we think of it, we don't use the strait. We're defending the strait for everybody else. And then in the case of NATO, they don't want to help us defend the strait, and they're the ones that need it. But now they're getting much nicer because they're seeing my attitude. They're getting much nicer. But it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's too late. You know, UK wants to send aircraft carriers now. And I said, I want the aircraft carriers before the war. I don't want them after the war is won. They want to send me aircraft carriers after the war. There's practically nobody to shoot at them. You know, their missile count is down, Pete. Maybe you could discuss it by about 90-something%. The drones are way down, and the factories are being demolished. Maybe.
Yes, sir. Our missiles being shot are down over 90% since the beginning. One-way attack drones down 90% since the beginning, which is a reflection of overwhelming firepower. But you mentioned the most important part, Mr. President. Their defense industrial base. If you can't make more of it in the future, then you have a limited supply. And so we're going after all of their defense contractors that make all of their exquisite weapons and ensuring that even if they wanted to rebuild more launchers or more missiles, they couldn't in the future. And that's a level of devastation for their military that they've never seen before.
So we have, in literally 2 weeks, we've demolished their Navy, their Air Force. All technology is gone. All communication is gone. And all of the leaders are gone. Other than that, they're doing quite well. Okay, how about one more question for the Prime Minister? Let me pick a beautiful-looking person from Japan. A question for the Prime Minister. Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah, sure. Oh, he doesn't believe he's beautiful.
Oh,
He's sounding shy.
we
Go ahead,
people,
please.
of course, know Japan and US are very good friends. But one question: why didn't you tell US allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about we Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted Surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? You know, he's asking me, no, you believe in surprise, I think much more so than us. And we had to surprise him, and we did. And because of that surprise, we knocked out, the first 2 days, we probably knocked out 50% of what and much more than we anticipated doing. So if I go and tell everybody about it, there's no longer a surprise, right? Okay, one more for the Prime Minister.
Mr. President.
Are you good for the Prime Minister?
Yes,
Go ahead, for the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much. Japan's DG Press. Japan's biggest concern is China. Now they're giving us export control and very harsh terms to criticize us. So will you plan to bring out relationship between Japan and China while you are there?
Yeah. Well, I'll be going to China very quickly, but I think I'd really like to have the Prime Minister talk about China because I know they have a little bit of an edgy relationship, and I'd just like to know where it stands, how you're doing with China. So, please.
で日本はいつも中国に対してオープンです。会話はオープンにしています。それから冷静に対応しています。でとにかく米中関係も含めてですね、これが地域の安定、それから世界のサプライチェーン、これに貢献するものであることを願っています。日本は常にオープンです。
So first of all, Japan has been consistently open to dialogue with China. And also, second, we have been addressing our relations with China in a calm manner. And also, speaking of the US-China relationship, my sincere hope is that the relationship will be something conducive for regional security and also ensuring the global supply chain in the world. Once again, I would like to reiterate that Japan has been consistently open to dialogue with China.
And I think we're going to have a great trip. The trip has been postponed for about a month and a half. It's been reset, and we look forward to it. And I'll be speaking Japan's praises when I'm in China with President Xi. But we're going to have some good talks today. And I think mostly about trade, because they want to do a lot of trade. They're a tremendous purchaser of our energy, our oil, gas from, in particular, Alaska. Because Alaska, believe it or not, is very close. It's much closer than any other source. It seems a little cold compared to, but it's just a short trip.
So that's something that we will talk after the press corps leaves.
We'll be discussing trade, and a lot of the talk will be about energy. Thank you very much, everybody.
So U.S. President Donald Trump is hosting Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaishi at the White House as the U.S.-Israel war against Iran approaches the 3-week mark. Now, Japan, like much of Asia, is directly impacted by this war. It usually gets more than 80% of its oil from the Middle East. That is now blocked because Iran has effectively closed the energy choke point, that is the Strait of Hormuz, in retaliation for attacks by the U.S. and by Israel. Al Jazeera is live from the White House, from Tehran, from Dubai, and Ramallah. First, we go to Kimberly Halkett at the White House, who's been covering this event, this meeting live. Kimberly, Donald Trump says that the countries which buy Middle Eastern oil, Japan is one of them, should help open the Strait of Hormuz. Do we know now, after this meeting, if Japan is going to help in that endeavor?
Well, what we know are two things. The U.S. president has an expectation that Japan should step up, noting that they get 90% of their oil that is imported is through the Strait of Hormuz. But we also know that he's name-checked China as well, and there's certainly been no pledge there. What we have heard ahead of this meeting is that there has been a statement, a joint statement that was put out by not only some NATO leaders, but also Japan, that essentially signaled that the allies would not be sending ships, but instead are contributing what they call appropriate efforts. So in other words, what Japan and European allies have done so far is signaled political support, but not military support.
Kimberly, what else from that exchange can you put on our radar?
Yeah, well, I think what's important to note here are the words of the Japanese Prime Minister. She went farther than I think anyone expected in terms of talking about the impacts of this war on the global economy. The fact that Donald Trump has tried to project that militarily the United States has done well and that Iran is decimated, but there's no arguing that the impact of this war has had ripple effects through the global economy. And the Prime Minister Takaichi said that very clearly. She said the global economy is experiencing a huge hit. So what she has said is she's proposing ideas to what she says will calm the global energy markets as we see the price of oil and gas spiking. And she's also said that she has come to this meeting at the White House to reach out to partners, agreeing that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, condemning the attacks that have occurred and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, but also looking for a way or that off-ramp that so far has not been readily available in order to bring this conflict to a close and to, in her words, achieve peace and harmony.
All right, Kimberly Halkett at the White House, thank you very much. We'll see what else, if anything, comes out of that meeting between the U.S. president and the Japanese prime minister. Now, we continue to cover developments really across the U.S. and Israel war against Iran, developments in the Middle East, developments in the Gulf, developments really across the world. Noor O'Day is southwest of Ramallah in the occupied West Bank, monitoring developments in Israel. Noor, there was a strike on the Israeli city of Haifa. Do you know what was hit?
Well, Sarah, we know now, after the Israeli military censor also cleared the information, that the oil refinery in the Haifa Bay was hit, as was the electricity company. There are some power outages reported in the Haifa area. The Israeli Minister of Energy has said that work to repair that damage is ongoing, and there were messages of reassurance to the public that there are no dangers of leaks, petrochemical leaks from that hit to the oil refinery. But this is a significant development, if you will, one that was considered remote even earlier on in the day, when we heard from a member of the Israeli Security Cabinet who was basically mocking countries that were being targeted now by Iran and saying that basically that Israel didn't have oil
Intel
resources
update.
and gas resources to speak of, and that Iran
Intel
was
update.
targeting them. Haifa port is very strategic for
Blast
Israel.
Radius
It's
Network,
home to
RT
Israel's
by at
Navy,
Blast
to
Radius Net 1,
submarine nuclear
an
submarines, to
F-35A/B
the oil
Lightning
refineries and the
LL made an
petrochemicals.
emergency landing
And
at a
now
U.S.
it
air
has
base in the
been
Middle
hit.
East
It
this
is
week,
not clear
after
whether
it was
this
struck by what is believed to be
shrapnel,
Iranian
interceptor
surface-to-air
shrapnel, or
fire,
Iranian
according
missile
to two
shrapnel, but the
sources
damage
familiar with
is
the matter who
unmistakable.
spoke to CNN. Captain Tim Hawkins, a spokesman for PIC.
Noor, I'm looking
Emergency
at just
alert
recent
message
developments in
detected.
Israel. So the
Hostile UAV alert
Israel
March
has hit
19,
the oil
2026,
depots in
18:17
Tehran.
and
They
15
also
seconds.
hit yesterday
Confrontation
the
line.
Iran's
KFAR
gas
Yuval
facilities
rocket
in Iran
alert.
has said, well, in
Live.
that case, if you're going to do
Blast
that, we're gonna
Radius
hit
Network
energy
Command
facilities
Center.
across the Gulf. And now you're just reporting that they hit an oil facility in Haifa. Are more Iranian missiles getting through?
Emergency
in Israel?
alert
Are
message
more Iranian
detected.
missiles actually hitting
Hostile
Israel
UAV
now
alert
than they
March
were
19,
90
2026,
days ago when this war started? Because
18:15
Israel
and
was
48
reporting that they had
seconds.
a
Confrontation line.
97%
Kiryat
interception rate
Shmona,
against
Tel Hai,
Iranian missiles.
KFAR Jaladi rocket
But they are
alert.
being hit
Live.
pretty regularly, 19
Blast
days
Radius Network Command Center.
Yeah, I mean, they've dropped that percentage now publicly to 90%, but let's keep in mind
Emergency
that the
alert
missiles
message
that
detected.
Iran is using now, Sarah,
Hostile
are
UAV
different
alert
from the
March
ones
19,
used on day one.
2026,
They're using
18:16 and
for
18
heavier
seconds.
missiles,
Confrontation
supersonic
line.
missiles,
Kiryat
missiles with
Shmona,
cluster
Tel Hai,
warheads that splinter
KFAR Yuval,
into
KFAR
several
Jaladi rocket
missiles
alert.
with an impact
Blast Radius
of about
Network
10
Command Center.
kilometers. They are hitting more regularly. They are creating damage to facilities like the railroad station in Holon and in Tel Aviv, damage to now the oil refinery and the electricity company in Haifa, and damage elsewhere that the military censor is not clearing. This is a strategic challenge as it is being described by military sources in Israel. These missiles, even if they're intercepted, even if they're down, they still can do a lot of damage because, again, they splinter into many, many missiles. And when they enter Israeli airspace, when they re-enter the airspace, they re-enter it at supersonic speed. These are very, very challenging for the interceptors, sophisticated as they may be in Israel, Sarah.
And Nuro Day, reporting southwest of Ramallah. Thank you very much for that context there. Now, Qatar's state energy company is warning that it will take 3 to 5 years to repair the damage that Iranian attacks have caused to its facilities. The CEO, Saad Al-Kaabi, said liquefied natural gas exports will drop by about 17% because of the destruction. He went on to say, "Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that Qatar and the region would come under such an attack, especially from a brotherly Muslim country during the month of Ramadan." Let's bring in Mohammed Val in Tehran and Zain Basravi, who's monitoring developments across the Gulf from Dubai. So, Zain, in the last 24 hours, Iran has targeted or hit energy sites in Qatar. We just detailed that, but also in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait. How much damage overall have they done?
Well, the assessments are ongoing, but the serious damage, the first indication we have of how bad the destruction to Ras Laffan was from the interview given by the CEO of Qatar Energy to Reuters. And in that, they detailed very clearly what the consequences of this expanding, escalating conflict now into its third week looks like. And the cost to the global energy infrastructure, global energy supply chain is going to be huge. 17% of Qatar's LNG capacity for the next 5 years has been compromised. They're talking about having to declare force majeure, unable to fulfill long-term contracts to multiple countries, including China, including Korea, including Italy. And what we are hearing is that this is likely to take an extraordinary amount of money and a great deal of time to repair the damage that's been done to the Ras Laffan liquid natural gas refinery. Just give you an indication of what the significance of this is. Qatar provides 20% of global liquid natural gas supplies. And that is used for everything from heating to cooling to energy generation to cooking to transportation fuel to heavy industry. And it is the second largest supplier of liquid natural gas in the world, second only to the United States. Breaking a link in the global energy supply chain that is so significant will have knock-on effects. We've seen European gas futures in early trading today on Thursday, a price fluctuation of 35% because the supply is going down. Indications on the ground as to the direction of this conflict are only negative at this stage. So the market is shaken, and that is likely to stay the course as long as this conflict carries on.
Yeah, and Zain, if you look at Brent crude prices, that's oil prices for the Brent crude benchmark, they're up 70% compared to pre-war, about $70 a barrel. Right now, we're at roughly $119 a barrel. And you know, Zain, we had the Japanese prime minister who was just saying the global economy is about to experience a huge hit because of this security environment. So that's to your point. Let's bring in Mohammed Val in the Iranian capital in Tehran. Mohammed, the U.S. President Donald Trump, on his Truth Social, essentially proposed or suggested what sounds like a bargain to Iran. You stop attacking Qatar's liquefied natural gas facility, and Israel will stop attacking or will refrain from attacking your gas facilities in the future. How is Iran responding to that?
Yes, Cyril, Iran hasn't responded in words, but as far as I understand, they have so far responded in action, because after that statement, Iran hit again at some of the oil and gas facilities in other countries in the Gulf region, but not at Ras Laffan in Qatar. So, I mean, we're just reading into this that probably the Iranians are heeding that warning and also that offer from the United States, from the American president. We have to wait and see. Maybe in the next 24 hours, I will be proved wrong. But if I am proved right, maybe the Iranians have taken this offer, this little tiny window of opportunity for some kind of, I don't know if we should call it direct or indirect dialogue between the United States and Iran right now with regards to what should be included in the all-out war and what should be not included or accepted. And that, for some observers, might be a beginning of something there. The two countries have always been saying that they're not about to go to negotiations. Iran has said it's not looking for a ceasefire. It's not looking for negotiations. Donald Trump says that he has goals that are very clear, the total destruction of Iran's capabilities, military and otherwise, and also the institutions and the government. Along with the Israelis, of course, they are on board and they are leading that campaign against Iran. But suddenly we have some kind of offer of negotiation, or not negotiation, of agreement on a particular point. Is this going to be the beginning of a wider style of type or a kind of dialogue between the two sides or not? There are many countries who are willing to be on board and try to create some kind of rapprochement between the two sides. There are countries that offered negotiations, but that didn't come to any results. But right now, at least we have the two sides are being able to, if I'm proved right, they are being able to at least have that tiny window there in the middle of the whole chaos.
Back to Zain Basravi in Dubai. So Zain, Iran has secured an enormous amount of leverage by effectively closing the Strait of Hormuz, choking off all that energy, the oil and the gas that goes through there from the Middle East to consumers around the world. As they've done that, Gulf countries have looked at rerouting their energy, right? Getting their energy out to market through other routes. It seems to me that Iran is now attacking those other routes as well. What are you seeing there?
That is exactly right. Iran is playing a multi-layered hand here. It's not just one thing it is doing. It is a real mixed weapons approach to this conflict as part of its retaliation. We've seen earlier last week that they attacked Oman, ports in Oman, oil export facilities in Oman that were being used as an alternative route. Ships there, ports there came under attack. Oman had to move ships away. And earlier today, the refineries that were attacked, the Samrah refinery in Saudi Arabia, that's on the Red Sea coast and near the city of Yanbu. And it really does illustrate that what they are trying to do is create a multi-layered chokehold around this region, around the Arabian Peninsula. And if things do escalate, if they do continue to go forward in this way, if Iran is able to block the Red Sea route as well, that will be a massive additional hit to the global supply chain, to the global energy markets. And it really does show that Iran is prepared to slash and burn everything. Now, really briefly, looking back at Trump's first administration, when he tore up the JCPOA, what he did was levy heavy sanctions against Iran. And he did this thing called a maximum pressure campaign to really hit Iran's economy. What we are seeing Iran doing now, hitting the global economy any way it can, is its version of a maximum pressure campaign. But even as we're in the middle of this, the region's leaders, Qatar's foreign minister and prime minister, saying today that they still want to live in peace with the Iranian people. They still want to give dialogue and diplomacy a chance. So even as the rhetoric and the reactions ratchet up, Gulf leaders are calling for an end to the conflict, an end to fighting, an end to attacks by Iran, and for both sides, all sides, to return to the negotiating table. Again, this is not a fight that you can punch your way out of. Every escalation only makes it worse.
Zain Basravi reporting from Dubai, Mohammed Val reporting from Tehran, the Iranian capital. Thank you very much to both of you. Now, the U.S. Pentagon has been giving a briefing on progress in the war in Iran. Speaking alongside Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, that's General Dan Kane, said that Iran's missile capability has not run out.
They came into this fight with a lot of weapons. This is why we continue to be as aggressive and assertive as we can against their ballistic missile capability, both their medium-range ballistic missile capability and their short-range missile capability. So we are continuing to hunt and find them and kill them, and we will continue to do so. So they still retain some capability. And we have layered defenses throughout the region that will allow us to protect those, and we're working with our partners across the Gulf region to help them improve any defensive capabilities that they may need.
Al Jazeera's Teresa Bow is live from Washington, D.C. Teresa, what did we learn? You listened to that briefing. What did we learn about the U.S. military campaign, which is almost about to hit the 3-week mark, how it's going and how it might end?
Well, certainly, we attended that briefing, and the Secretary of War was clearly sending a message that the United States is winning this war, that the United States is in control of the country, saying that the main objective of this war is putting an end to any type of threat that Iran could represent for the United States, and that there's no timeline about when this war is going to end. He also said that this Thursday, that means today, is going to have the strongest strike package. So we're going to have to be expecting any type of later on attacks during this day. But it's interesting because the Secretary of War, he also said that they're going to have been attacking the drone facilities, ballistic missile facilities, the Navy, among others, and that they're expanded, that they have attacked at least 7,000 targets in the country. He also spoke about the attacks that have been ongoing against oil facilities in the Gulf, saying that Iran should not be attacking those countries, threatening Iran, saying that they are creating a defense shield to try to help the Gulf protect itself from what is happening in Iran. So certainly there's been lots of information coming out of the briefing, and also this message that the United States wants to send, that is winning this war, with a reality on the ground that is completely different when the government continues to be in control of the country. And also, Pete Hegseth has mentioned that they're going to be requesting extra funding for this war, $200 billion. The Pentagon is going to be requesting Congress. When he was asked about this, he literally said that you need money to kill the bad guys. And this is a contentious issue, a divisive issue in the United States, not only because there's many who are questioning the legality of this whole war, but also because of funding, and not just about the cost, but also the impact that something like this could have on the economy.
As far as $200 billion, I think that number could move, obviously. It takes money to kill bad guys. So we're going back to Congress and our folks there to ensure that we're properly funded for what's been done, for what we may have to do in the future, ensure that our ammunition everything's refilled, and not just refilled, but above and beyond.
You're watching Al Jazeera. A reminder of our headlines this hour. Energy prices have surged after Iran struck the world's largest liquefied natural gas complex in Qatar. Qatar's state energy company says that it will take 3 to 5 years to repair